Welcome, everyone, to the August 29th, 2023 Ogden City Council meeting. Please let the record reflect that all council members are present, with the exception of Councilmember Lopez. And we'll start this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance by Vice Chair Ritchie.
Thank you. Please stand and join me if you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you so much. Are there any acknowledgements from council members at this time?
I have a personal, this is just a personal proud dad moment. My son today joined the Air Force Reserves, took the oath, and we'll be looking for, he's in the ROTC up at Utah State, and just super proud of him. So I don't know if this is the right time for that or not, but
Absolutely.
I'm going to take it anyway.
I love it.
And he's hoping to be, like any kid who's watched Top Gun, he's hoping to be a fighter pilot. So all the best for him, hopefully.
Wow. And he grew up in the right place for that, huh? Well, congratulations.
Well, he took me up in a flight last week, and we flew up the canyon and around, and it was pretty neat. So
that's really cool.
Chair,
please.
In just a few days, we're getting into September, and that's Constitution Month. We've been asked by our legislature, state legislature, to honor that and celebrate that. I hope we can look for ways to do that in our community. We've got a few ideas here for the council, but kind of an exciting thing to honor and revisit. Looking forward to that.
Thank you, and I think Councilmember White, for arranging that. Thank you. Any others? I was just going to mention, I'm so sad I can't attend this event, but on Friday, September 1st, there'll be a ribbon cutting and art installation at the corner right here on the corner of 25th Street in Washington. They'll have the new art piece up and have a whole ribbon cutting there, and I'm really excited. That corner has been looking so great in the whole redevelopment of it, and so that'll be an exciting event. I'll be excited to see it. I'll just be out of town, but I encourage everybody to check that out. Great. Well, the one thing, the unfinished business we have on our agenda this evening is proposed amendments to notification requirements, which was tabled from August 15, 2023, and we'll invite Barton Brierley, our planning manager, to present. Okay, look at you. You have a whole box.
I brought show and tell. So
awesome. I love it. I love.
Okay, so thank you, Chair Chaburka and city councilors. So this is a proposal to amend the zoning ordinance. This comes from Senate Bill 201, which is actually a couple years ago now, that eliminated the requirements to post notices for almost all things in the newspapers. And it requires them instead to be posted on the Utah Public Notice website and the city's website. So the proposed amendment would remove the requirement for posting legal notices in the newspaper for land use items. And you had several questions on your last meeting, so I wanted to address those questions. You had questions about, how are notices archived? So in the state public notice website, says past notices are archived and are accessible, and users can search current, past, and future notices. So you can go back as far as they've started this website and find those notices. So I did that. I just went back and see if I could find past notices, and I found like 31 pages of notices that had been posted for City of Ogden on there. So it appears that they are all there, that you can find it. And I know there was a comment that were there some notices missing. I did a little bit of an audit. I went through like the last 2 years of Planning Commission and see if all those notices were there, and they were all there. So I'm not sure what would be missing. I go through all 31 pages and check and find one, but they are archived and they do all appear to be there. One of the questions was, how do you subscribe to it? And the state public notice website has subscription options for bodies, and you can send it on an RSS feed or an email. So you can go in, and if you're interested in what City Council is doing, what the Planning Commission is doing, what Weber County is doing, you can do a subscription and get those in whatever form you want. Also, on the city's website, if you look on the front page of the city website, right in the corner there, there's Notify Me, and you can sign up there and get notices there, and you can get notified of anything that's posted on the website. So those are all available. So on doing a notice for a land use audit item, there's a lot of options. You can do the city website, we have the apps at your service. You can do the public notice website. You can sign up for the RSS feed. There's the notices that we place on City Hall. And we do mailed notices. And this is why my show and tell. So last week, now this isn't the exact actual notices, but this is representative of the weight of what we did. Just last week we sent out over 3,000 postcards. And it's a little postcard that looks like that. Ends up in a box like this. And we send those out to people so that that are affected by a particular change. So when you do this, it's quite a bit of effort in our staff. It's a lot of postage, a lot of cost, but we do find it is very effective. When most people come to hearings, it's because they get mailed notices, one of the most popular things. So just my point is, we do take this very seriously. We do want people to participate, and we do want to solicit that, and we do spend a lot of effort in notifying people. So what we found is the least effective of everything is this little notice that gets put in the newspaper. We've shown this before, and I've updated it to the most recent, that really the most effective way is just word of mouth. Somebody, it's usually an applicant or a neighbor or something that lets people know. But mailed notices are most effective. We did have one person say they heard from the newspaper, though I'm 99% sure it wasn't because of the paid notice, because the item that they're looking at wasn't in that paid notice. It was actually a front page article. So we just found that it isn't very effective. It does cost time to do it. It costs time for our staff to put it in the newspaper, have the staff all the way through the recorder's office and finance office to pay the bills. And it is something we do spend a lot on notices, and we do blow our budget each year because we have a lot of things that we notice. And there is an opportunity cost, also a customer service cost, because you have to do notice, and you have to send it in several days before the deadline, and there's holidays and things like that. That if there's anything that, sometimes we'll have an economic development project and they want to do a zone change and it's a time sensitive, we can often miss that because of the newspaper notice. So there is a customer service cost to doing it. So
can you talk to me a little bit more about that?
Mm-hmm.
Explain what you mean.
Yeah. So if you do it has to be in the paper 10 days before the hearing. Well, you have to send it to the paper a few days before then. And if for whatever reason you miss that, then you're off to the next month's meeting. So there's a time customer service cost to it also.
Can I ask if that's if the state is no longer requiring the paper, would the state website satisfy that noticing or that time noticing requirement and still be able to get it in the paper even though it's not 10 days before?
Under state law, you can do that. It's just our local ordinance that requires in the paper. So yes, which is what we're requiring.
So we could potentially just change the 10-day window to say that it needs to also be in the paper.
Or if it says that it was met under the state, then potentially wouldn't require it to be in the paper 10 days, but as long as it was met. Anyway, yeah,
Right.
just a thinking.
Without causing the customer service delay.
Yeah.
So it's only monthly.
So again, it's just really a matter of effectiveness. If this were effective, no question, we would do it, and we would be happily doing it. It's just has limited effective, and it does have some costs to it. So the Planning Commission is recommending that you adopt the proposed amendments, and we would further propose that you adopt it, but actually delay the effective date to January 1st, 2024. Let's do even more outreach so that we can post things in senior centers and paper and everything, so people know that where they can get the notices. So that's our recommendation.
Great,
Chair,
thanks.
I have a question.
Please go ahead.
So I was under the assumption, and maybe I'm incorrectly assuming, but it's not just for planning commission hearings or council meetings or diversity commission meetings. Isn't it for things like if we are, I don't know, sale of property or anything like that? It's all notices, or a development, or am I only thinking, I mean, you've listed here commission hearings and those kind of things, but I'm just wondering about the other. Does that fall under that too?
Yeah, the state did a very extensive change. Basically, anywhere in the state law that said you had to publish notice in the paper, they got rid of it and said that you do it on the state public notice website. This particular amendment only deals with land use stuff because I'm the land use guy, and other people can, if there are requirements for posting bids or stuff like that, that wasn't under the purview of this particular amendment. But other departments might come forward with the changes, similar changes.
Interesting.
So this particular ordinance only includes the notices for the hearings. What are we doing with the others? I know you're the land use guy. I'm looking back to maybe Brandon to have a conversation or something. I know
Or
you're
maybe Mara might be able to
sorry, Mara. I
address that.
should have addressed you that. I apologize for that.
I might have to do some research, but it's my understanding that most of those other kinds of notices, like committees and don't require publication in a newspaper. So we're just doing that on the state noticing website and on our web page and all, and other forms of distribution, but not through newspaper.
It's part of the Open Meetings Act. Then it would just be on our website. It wouldn't be part of that. Or you're thinking of other things?
No, if we have land to develop and we're seeking developers, we're currently not posting that in the paper. Is that what I'm understanding?
So which kind did you say? Which for?
So like if we have some property that we want to develop when we're seeking developers.
Those, so RFPs those are still published in the newspaper, like a request for proposal or bids over a certain threshold. So those still do get newspaper publication.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good point. Thank you.
Chair Berger, could I just make one clarification based on something that Ken said, Vice Chair Ritchie said in leadership meeting. The notices that go in the paper are not the same. They're not the same format. They have to be created separately from the notices that go on the website. So it's sort of it's not just a matter of sending it here and sending it there. They're sending it to the website, but then they also have to create something different that goes to the paper. So I just wanted to make sure you understood that.
That's helpful. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
And I want to make sure I'm clear, in your box, you're still going to send the box of
Yes.
papers out.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. In fact, we're doing about 2,000 next week. So
Well, that's definitely helping me a little bit, be a little bit more on board, because I do feel pretty strongly about the gosh, I'm not going to remember his name, but the editor, writing to us from the Standard Examiner to talk about how we want to make sure to preserve the meaningfulness and the timeliness of the information that's in the actual newspaper. Just because I do believe in local journalism and I want to support that as much as possible. So I appreciate us kind of defining that this is only for those planning notices versus those other kinds of postings.
Those mailers do go to property owners as well as residents, right?
Yes, yep.
So one address is maybe getting to,
And I guess, I don't know, this would be a question for the Standard Examiner, is would they be willing to accept our CC'd copy of whatever goes to the state? That would be, and Tracy's saying no.
No, because well, go ahead, Tracy.
Yeah,
Sorry,
just help
if
me
I-
understand that a little bit
If I
better.
could, we use our branding in like on the postcards and in the notices we post online. Of course, it includes color and everybody's names and logos. That would be a full page ad, which is not required, or would be a paid ad. These are just legal notices, so it's basically just the word content that's put into the legal notice in
Right,
the
and
newspaper.
If they were to receive the legal notice, could they extrapolate that information? I guess that would be a question for them.
They usually won't.
Yeah.
They
They
put
usually won't.
exactly
Okay.
what we send them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They
We-
require
We're
it in
paying
Word
them to
format.
publish it. They're not
Yeah.
doing it as a favor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do send them all the agendas, so they have that information. And sometimes they do articles, and that has actually been fairly successful. When they actually do an article about something, we get people showing up because of the article, the ad in the back, the legal notice. We're just not seeing a lot of effectiveness there.
So I'm curious, have you talked to any of your counterparts in, contiguous cities here? Are they doing a similar ordinance? I'm just curious if we're the only ones backing out of the paper and everybody else is still doing it.
Yeah, it's pretty common that they're getting out. One of the things that is happening is the Standard Examiner is one of the few that publishes a daily paper. So many papers there's a lot of places in the state that don't have a daily paper anymore. They have a once or twice a week paper, and that's problematic for those communities.
Interesting. Any other questions? Go ahead, please.
And the delay or the extension of the time frame, what will be some of your process to outreach and do some of that, other than something at golden hours or something?
Yeah, so we'll put it in the paper that this is there. We're looking at places like the senior center, put it there, put it in the case here. The At Your Service newsletter, put it there. Those were the things we were looking at. I'll work with the Chamber of Commerce, and they have a good newsletter that we can put it in there.
I still see a lot of people deep in thought about this.
Chair,
Who knew this
I've
was
got
going to be so complicated?
a thought on this. All the things that we do, we've added many different ways to notice since this ordinance was ever developed in the first place. We now have a website that's very responsive, that has the ability to notice. The state has now got a website that has the ability to notice. We've got the postcards that we've jazzed up quite a bit in recent years, made them bigger and more to the point. It doesn't seem like we should be just adding and adding and adding without looking at the efficacy of some of the things that are currently going on, which I think we would have to agree is the paper is not very effective, at least in the notice section. I agree with you. When they do an article on something, that is fairly effective, and people do read those articles, but I don't think many people just go looking in the notices much, but that couldn't do one of the others. So I'm kind of I'm kind of convinced that maybe that's something, we're gonna keep moving ahead, and these seems like a logical thing to do. What the state has recognized that the paper isn't that effective, and so it no longer requires us to do it that way.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Barton, or would anybody like to propose a motion?
Chair, I'll make that motion and see how it goes.
Excuse me. Oh,
We make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2023-49, delaying the effective date to January 1st, 2024.
Do we have the discretion to allow for public input?
I'm sorry. Janine,
Sorry, Chair Chaburka. The ordinance that's in your packet does not include the delayed start date, so you would need to amend the ordinance to include that effective date of January 1st.
So we need to amend it first. Okay.
Okay. I'll make that motion that we amend the ordinance to make its start date January 1st, 2024.
Anybody second that amendment?
I'll second that.
We have a motion to amend proposed ordinance 2023-49 by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Blair. And would that be a voice vote? And that's a voice vote.
Chair, Chair, is there any way to do public input on this?
Yeah, we're just changing the date right now.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't following you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. Okay. So this is just amending to extend this, if it's adopted, to January 1st, 2024, right? It's a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it sounds like we want to take some public input. I'm happy to do that. If you'd like to make comment on this item, you can step to the podium and you have 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name for the record for this item alone. Yeah, we had already taken public input several times on this item, so I don't think that's why it wasn't on the agenda to do so.
Hi, Travis Pete, Ogden resident. The dynamic for me is as far as public input and also just the aspect of notifications. Again, Porter Avenue was ready to be sold by the city, sold by the planning division as surplus property, and made a loading dock for Bartholomew Frame Gallery. I read it in the paper. I notified our neighbors. Our neighbors put a petition together and brought it back to the city. Turns out, oh, we can't surplus it because lo and behold, it's an actual road. And so even the dynamic, but it would have been sold and just gone through the process and gone. And we want this beautiful art district, and we have this beautiful staircase that could be restored. Dedicated originally by David O. McKay, past president of Weber Academy, longtime resident of Ogden Valley, later president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a worldwide organization with influence. Here's something that's notable. And yet without that newspaper notice, I wouldn't have seen it, and it would be gone. Good luck getting it back. But again, because of the newspaper notice. So as far as efficiency, if they even said one person said it was efficient, and I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is, I've got $3 because that's 300 times the cost that it costs our citizens for this full year's advertising. $2,400 out of a $254 million budget. How greedy are we? And you ask each of the departments, cut 5% off your budget and see where that brings. Cut 10% off your budget and bring it all to us. Fire department brought in, planning division. They didn't put this as a line item. $2,400, that's breaking our bank. And so we're talking 100% of 1% of the cost of the entire annual city budget to put it in the paper. And we're saying to the paper, we have zero confidence in you, but please, hey, we're going to call you and we want a front page ad when we do something fun, multicultural or otherwise, but we're not going to support you on your bottom line to have a staff member. And yes, the format might be slightly different, but we can also reformat our stuff to match the standards requirements. Here's the notice. And here's how we now paste that onto our website. So we prepared it the same way. It's the same legwork. And it costs nothing. Standard.net, click send. That's 13 characters because we've chosen to also reformat. Yeah, we don't have the color of the pizzazz, but it's called cut and paste. I've done that since computers were invented. And so I've given staff a full comment, but there's 8 of these. This is the standard. This is it being delivered to my neighbor. This is my family being on front pages multi times. This is the library block. All the photographs here were taken by the newspaper. So I'd just like to say it's premature. So please, if it comes up, vote for it in January.
Thank you. Any other comments about this item? We can pass it down. Thanks, Travis.
Good evening, Teresa Bramwell. The reason why I care about this is because this is about land. And people that own land care about their land. If they don't, they should. The one time this affected, well, there's been many times this has affected me. But one particular time was when they built the Family Dollar next to my home on Monroe. And I was in Mexico, in Guadalajara, doing 4 shows a day. And the reason I knew that was happening is because my mom saw it in the newspaper and she sent me an email about it. There wasn't a lot I could do from Mexico about the situation, so I didn't really understand the ramifications of it at the time, or that there would be any. So I kind of just clicked off the email and was like, oh, there's going to be a Family Dollar next door. Well, at least it'll be made out of brick. I didn't know at the time that the entire block between 24th and 25th was going to be bulldozed, that had all of the commercial, including the grocery store and the Walgreens and the Rite Aid and the Wheelwright Lumber. So now the Family Dollar is it. And everybody in the neighborhood comes there. I have thousands of people walking past my home every day to go to that Family Dollar that I didn't care so much about 20 years ago when it was built. Maybe I should have. But at least I found out about it because it was in the newspaper. And my mom sent me an email. I don't have the answer for this. I imagine you're going to pass this. It's something that's come down from the state. I just, people need to start caring about their property a lot more. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. If you just came in, we're doing public comment only on the item on 3A, proposed amendments to notification requirements. Is that what your comment is about? Awesome. Come on up. State your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
I just ran up the stairs.
Oh, well, you did a great job.
So I'm like, oh, okay, I got this. My name is Linda Sanchez. I actually was listening to you online, so I was actually happy to hear. I work with the veterans who actually read the paper. They don't know how to get onto the websites. They don't know how to do all that stuff. And although if you don't give them their paper, they surely know. And that's how they stay informed. So I would think that we could honor those that are either elderly, and there's a lot of people that are learning how to get on websites, how to do stuff, but not everyone. So I would think that I think it would be a wise thing to keep it in into the paper so that people can stay informed if there's something that they really value. And, you know, sometimes the elderly have a lot of good feedback and have history, which sometimes us young kids think we know it all, but sometimes wisdom. So just keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, and thanks so much for running to get here.
Yeah.
But you can also, if you are online on the Zoom meeting, you can also participate that way too by raising your hand. Just so you know for future too. I mean, we love having you here, so please come back, but you can participate that way as well.
Hi.
Hi.
I do know this. Many vets.
Say your name.
And,
Yes. say your name.
Teresa Holmes,
Thank you.
Ogden resident. Anyway, I do know many vets and a lot of people are just not on the internet. The only way they get news is a newspaper. Many don't go to the golden hours. I don't want to go there. And, I mean, no offense, but I mean, I've been, doing the Standard Examiner crossword since I was about 6 years old. And I read it from cover to cover. And if I didn't have that or the internet, I would be really, really out there. And I know a lot of the older people in their 80s and 90s, this is how they get their news. They're not going to go online. They don't have any, most of them don't even have a clue how to do it, you know? So, I mean, keep it in the newspaper for a while longer. These people won't probably live another 20 years, and then you can do your thing. I don't know.
Thank you.
But the crossword of the paper hasn't been that good lately.
Uh-oh.
I'm still addicted to it.
Maybe you just know all the answers.
Yeah, I do.
I have to go to someone. Hi. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Steve Jones, Ogden resident. That's one of the things I'd like to emphasize is that success can be measured in many different ways. The graph that Barton put up there showed that the publishing in the newspaper was relatively ineffective. But what is that measuring? Is that measuring the number of people who responded because that was there? Or is it measuring the number of people who got informed and stayed engaged with the city and so forth, even if they didn't actually respond? Is it being more inclusive? And I think there's a lot more to just how many people have responded. It's, have we been more transparent? Have we reached more people? Did we give them a better day? And so I would strongly encourage you to not approve this proposal, because you have the potential for it to do a lot of harm that you're never going to hear about. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other comments here in the chamber? Okay, there's a hand up online. Angel Castillo. Just 1 second. It looks like we're working on a technical issue. Okay, I think you're set.
Great, thank you so much. Angel Castillo, Ogden resident. Again, deeply appreciative of online ability so that I can stay connected while I have to do work stuff. I am not a statistician or an economist, but I know people who are. And one of the things that I've learned about the survey that y'all paid for the whole CREP thing is that a sample size of 45 people is not enough for a meaningful result of who you're surveying. And there are no crosstabs. We don't know those 45 people that participated where they live. So we have no idea if it's equitable. So I'm strongly encouraging you to use your wisdom that you did with engaging with the people at Weber State whenever you want to run a quick survey. They're there to help you and make sure that you get all the crosstabs. And I'd also like to thank Councilmember White for making sure that public input was taken. I appreciate that because I understand that you're committed to transparency and hearing people is a big part of it. In Ogden, with the population of 87,000, there are 9,744 people that are 65 and over. And those 65 and over folks have a tendency to read the paper. I know a Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints stake president that lives in Councilmember Hires area, and he's 89, and he doesn't have email and he doesn't text. He has a phone and he gets the paper. And I'm sure there's a lot of people like that. So I'd like you to consider thinking about doing something different. I understand that we want to manage costs, I'm well behind that. But perhaps as we phase this out, maybe you could contract for robocalls to all of the people that are 65 and over, letting them know for 6 months or a year, every month, that this process is changing, and here's where you can go, and here's how we can help you. A 60-second robocall in Utah for a population of 9,744 seniors is $156. And so between what gets mailed and a year of educating folks that are older that the system's going to change, and here's where you can go to get information, is something I think that would probably be good to help manage, but also make sure that we don't eliminate that population. If I would fully support keeping the paper for a couple of years and then starting that education process that it's changing, and then dropping the paper. So perhaps maybe table it till you can find an alternative solution. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, great. Any other discussion or questions? Okay, we'd be happy to consider a motion.
I would like to just start a little bit of discussion. I mean, we've heard some comments, and I appreciate the comments that were made. But I believe, as Councilman Heyer mentioned earlier, we've changed. We've increased the way we notify people, and I think, like in Travis's case or in Mrs. Bramwell's case, they found out about it through the paper, but that was the only way that it was probably available at that time, I'm assuming. And that's not the case anymore. We're still going to notify people. There's still going to be notifications sent. There's still going to be notifications made. So I understand the tie to the newspaper, that it's been done that way for so long, but I tend to agree with Councilmember Heyer that we've continually tried to evolve and try to do a better process so that we can include more people and allow more people access to this information. And I'm not sure that the Standard Examiner is that avenue anymore. That's all.
Yeah, I definitely have mixed feelings about this one. I just, for me, I guess it's just maybe I feel like a little bit more of a time delay would be more appropriate, because we do have quite a population of people that are affected by this digital divide. I mean, that's what it's called, right? Is either people that don't have the literacy or the actual technology. I mean, there's all different levels of how it works. It sort of works at like having this actual computer in front of you, to having the internet connection, to then actually being able to utilize that particular technology too. So for me, I guess I'm just not ready to vote for this change, although I do appreciate the length of discussion and the response that the staff has made to it. I just feel like it's not time yet.
And I'm just, not to be argumentative, I'm just curious, do you mean longer than an effective date of January 1st? Do you mean extending that farther than that, is what I'm asking?
I mean, just for me, just based on, all of these different elements, I think it would be a little bit longer, just because we do have quite a large group of people that are reading the paper or interacting with the actual physical paper in our community locally. And that is one of the only ways that they do get information. But I'm up for other comments too.
Yeah, I think I would probably align with you, Angela, on this one, in that, if there's even just one citizen of Ogden that's how they get their information, then we need to make that available. And I'm sensitive to the fact that, it's not a huge part of the budget, but there is staff time involved. I get that. I would hope we could, I would think the standard would look, if I was the standard, would trying to figure out ways to make it easier to post those notices, not harder. And maybe if they're listening, that might be something they could look at. Yeah, for now, I feel like it is great that we're looking at adding other avenues, or we've done that, and the email notifications, that works great for me. Does it work great for everybody? I don't know that's, I mean, probably the majority, yeah. But still, I think I'm inclined to say either delay that start date even beyond January 1. And I don't know what that day would be, actually. I'd have to think about that one. So
I think I align with you guys. I think this sends a wrong message of trust. I do have concerns about the staff time. That's a lot of, with the amount of work that goes into it, but I just think that the time and the money spent is worth the trust that we keep.
And honestly, I mean, we have so many challenges with getting people the information and having people come at the last minute to say, oh, I just found out about this today when I got this postcard. That, and that postcard might arrive a couple days before the commission meeting, but at least the 10 days before, whatever it is in the paper is a little bit earlier than that. Yes, I guess I'm not for cutting any of our communication methods until we don't have that impact every time something's happening where people are coming and saying they're out of the loop. And I'm not saying that's anybody's fault here. I'm just saying that we have that situation where we can't get ahead to get people the information they need further in advance. They always seem to be behind. So.
And I would be open to that customer service that was talked about if there was an amendment to the ordinance to allow the state noticing to satisfy that 10-day requirement. I'm open to that for sure. But still posting those in the paper, I think, is important for now.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. Were you going to say something? Sorry, I can't tell if you're turning it on or off.
No, and I am in agreement with you all. And I think one of the things that concerns me is we just don't have a good plan of rolling it out. And it's like we're flying by the seat of our pants to roll it out. And I just don't think that that's fair. And we still have quite a bit of a digital divide here. And so I agree with you. Not two people that read the report or read the paper, but
what would be reasonable in your mind?
For how long to delay it?
Yeah.
I don't have a date in mind. I'm sorry.
The comments, while I'm not unpersuaded, they tend to be sentimental. Back in the day, this happened, and that was how I got my thing. And I guess there are those, and I'm one that I'm kind of averse to change. I don't really like, and that's kind of what I'm kind of sensing is there's some change being proposed, and people say, "Oh, don't change. It's gonna."
Yeah, no, I hear you. I definitely have been that way before, but honestly, I have to tell you, I'm a pretty innovative. I mean, that's what I do for my job is I have to come up with new ideas for how we do stuff all the time. So I don't think I'm averse to change. I do have that feeling similar to what has already been stated, that even if one person is disconnected from our communication because we make this change, then we're doing the opposite of what we've been trying to do for the whole time I've been here. And I'm sure you all have been working on that prior to this, that we want to make sure we're telling people and engaging and being super transparent about everything that we do. And I think that is the biggest challenge when you start aggregating information, kind of to Angel's point as well, is that sometimes if you average things out, you're like, oh, well, the majority of people that's going to work out okay for. When we're thinking about access and equitable sort of information sharing, you actually want to think about the lowest or the least amount of people and figure out how you can address their concerns, and then that will work for everybody else too. It doesn't hurt anybody else to actually help to address those needs of that population. So in this case, I was talking about older folks, but there's also people that actually in our community right now don't have certain strengths of internet access that they need to have even to get digital information. We found that during the COVID-19 pandemic, right, that there's certain pockets of our community that don't get that in the same way. And so there's a few people that would just be any age, but they just wouldn't have that access for a variety of reasons. So they might get the paper instead.
But I guess the reason I asked the question of when is because this sentimental argument is going to go on in perpetuity. So we ought to have some kind of a plan that, you know.
Well, maybe I think somebody in the audience said 10 years or something. Like there's going to be a certain age out, you know, when we can say everybody in our community has access to internet at a certain level.
Well,
the majority of
that's
people.
never going to be the case. There was always going to be some people that aren't going to have access to internet.
Yeah.
Always.
That's true. I'm just saying that maybe I'm not confident in the amount that we have right now.
I think part of the issue for me as well is just being a partner with the paper. Like we're fortunate to have a daily paper, and I think that this is a way that we can support the paper. As a percentage of our budget, this is not a large percentage, but it may represent more to the paper. If that were to ever change and they were to go to where they're just doing once a week publications, and I think that would definitely be a time to say, yeah, well, this is no longer a thing for us to. I would be more inclined to say let's stop with that noticing requirement, just because that distribution channel is now drying up or whatever, and it's tough to be a paper night, these days for sure. So.
That's true. Well, like the Salt Lake Tribune now has an everyday publication of their online paper, but then I get it mailed to me twice a week. So that only and that could happen with our local paper too, based on their financial situation, depending. So it's true.
I think if we were to deny this, I think the administration could bring it. They can't bring it back before a year. Is that correct? So they could try it out every year, I suppose.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's where everybody is feeling. I don't have a strong feeling other than I do think we ought to make decisions based on facts and data and those kind of things, not emotion. As certainly that is a driver sometimes, but in the end, we gotta justify what we do.
I think I am basing my decision on facts.
Yeah,
so we can just disagree about that.
Well, and that was what I was going to say is we can disagree on some of those things. So anyway, my point was, or what I was going to say is that in event of the conversation we've had, I'm going to make a motion that we not adopt ordinance 2023-49.
Second.
And I appreciate that. And all I was going to say too is we could actually put this as an item possibly for our flash survey when we get the panel of residents. This might be a really great item to explore with them too, because that would give us a more statistically accurate feedback too. Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, a second by Councilmember Nadolski to not adopt ordinance 2023-49. And this is a roll call vote.
I think you just voice vote that one. When it's not going to pass, when it's being denied. Not true.
Mm-mm. It's still a roll call.
It says roll call here, so.
Councilmember Blair?
I just want to make sure if I vote aye, that means I vote to deny, not to.
Correct.
Yeah, aye.
Yes. Good
Councilmember
point.
Heyer.
I should have pointed that out.
Yes means no.
Yes means
yes
no.
means
Yeah,
no.
yes means no.
And no means yes.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Vice Chair Ritchie?
Aye.
Chair Chaburka?
Aye, and that passes, but it means it's not adopted.
Yes.
Correct? We're on the same page?
Well,
and I do really appreciate this in-depth conversation about this and how many questions we asked. And I appreciate the staff for doing all that due diligence to answer all of our questions, et cetera. Because it got tabled so often too, I had a feeling that it was going to be a challenge to get it to pass. But I would love to propose that as an idea for the new flash survey tool. That could be a really great item to add to a survey, I think. Understand where people get this information and how they feel about it being published in the paper. Okay, up next we have public comments, and this is an opportunity to address the council regarding any concerns or idea on any topic. And you may step to the podium and state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. And if you're on the Zoom meeting online, feel free to raise your hand. Welcome.
Okay, I'm Kerry Wayne, your friendly neighbor from across the street. I wanted to come and talk about what I think is something very significant, which is the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. As far as I know, they have not gotten an extension on their lease. They've done a lot of work to try to meet the requirements that were laid out for that extension, and we're like a couple days out. And I'm asking you to pressure the mayor to give them that extension, do what's right. I think that they serve this community in a very special way. There's nothing that can replace them. We need them. And I think that, I say Ogden's a better place for it. So I'm hoping, like I said, you can put the pressure on, get them that extension. Because like I said, you're going to cause them, it's going to cause them to shut down operations completely because they're not ready at their new facility. And so we need that buffer so that they can get finished up. I'm amazed at what they've done so far. I went over there and looked at it at first and I went, oh my gosh, these poor people. It's been a difficult thing for them. And so I'm hoping, again, that you can reach out and convince the mayor, the administration, to give them that extension. And the other little topic I'd like to talk to you about is, again, I mentioned maybe using city-owned property for nonprofits, particularly for the homeless. And I'm hoping that I can get some dialogue with you to get that going, because I really think that if you could do something to get like a command post and basically have nonprofits work together to get these people housing, and it's just really a shame to see them out there on the corners. And if we can find a solution, I think it would be great. And if the city could be part of that solution, it'd be even better, because then again, you can take credit for it. And again, I know that I mentioned one of the cities, I think it was Dallas, had a program that they were doing, and they were finding housing for the homeless. And they said that made a big difference in the way that it changed their attitude. It gave them self-esteem to where they can be valuable members of the community instead of a burden. Mm-hmm. And so I'd like to get that dialogue going with you. And again, it's always a pleasure to see you guys. And I like it when I can come and talk to you nicely. Okay. So again, thank you so much for all you do. Great job. We'll talk to you soon. Okay. Thank you much.
Well, I don't know if we want to try to address that first, unless if other people are going to speak to that, but didn't we get an update about that recently?
Congratulate him. Maybe he convinced him.
Yeah.
Are we talking about wildlife
the extension?
rehabilitation?
Yeah, just in case other people are going to comment about that. I just thought it might be good for us to give an update.
No, absolutely no pressure needed. It's already on its way. I mean, we've been working with them for the last couple of weeks, and I'm pretty sure they've got everything done. And I've already talked to the council, and if there's any other hiccups, we can work those out before the time period.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So I think they're there.
In case anybody else wanted to ask about that. So the extension has been granted, correct, Gary?
It hasn't been officially granted. They still have to give all their documents to us, the final homework to give it all to us, but they're on their way. They got all their approvals. They're there.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that update. In case anybody else had questions about that. And then as far as, we'll get to the other item at the end. Come on up. Sorry, I threw my pen. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, ladies, gentlemen of the council. John Thompson. 3 things in my 3 minutes. That's my goal anyway. First, I'm assuming everybody got this official city magazine. And the first question I would have is, what's the difference between revitalization and redevelopment? The second thing pertains actually to the magazine. There are some articles. There are no authors mentioned. Of particular interest to me was the article on the Browning and the museums that's going on. And when I tried to contact who put this publication together, I could not get an answer. I did leave a message, I think, with the publisher down in Layton. And one of the items I mentioned to her, and I'm not sure what position she had, but she didn't know who put them together. And I said, why didn't Ogden people put this together? Why didn't Union Station write this? Why didn't Weber State people write this? Why didn't somebody from the city write these articles? So I'm not sure what the purpose of it But if it's for Ogden, I would ask that whoever is in charge of it, that kind of centralize it and prioritize Ogden, because that's who we are. And especially with the Browning, and the other article was about the Becker Brewing Company going on. So that was the second one. The third one is to follow up with Mr. Carey here, is about the Wildlife Rehab Center. I was asked to help in that Sunday, and then Monday, I read an article and it talked about the eviction of it. I don't know all the particulars of it, but my impression from what I've been hearing in that article is, first of all, why were they evicted in the first place? I understand the mayor has responsibility in terms of management and stuff, but the bigger responsibility, as I understand it, with the council, they're the ones that approve how the mayor manages city property. So when they've been there for 12 years, almost like a 12-year marriage, and there was nothing that came up and it was a problem and nobody tried to resolve it, or at least put the problems on the table, and why couldn't both sides resolve it? That seems to be something else is going on here. It also seems like they're not being treated fairly in terms of the zoning and stuff that they've been required to do. I've asked my council member to look into this for me. I have not heard back from the member yet, but it just seems like it's somebody being mean and vindictive, and I think that's unfair. And the last thing for wildlife, Ogden, where it says on here, still untamed. That means wild, and I don't know why there is not a better relationship with that group, with the city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello,
Hi.
Teresa Holmes. Ogden resident. What I've got to say is I volunteered for 21 years at Union Station, and I never, ever had anybody come in and ask, where's your high-end retail stores? Where's your restaurants? We sent them up 25th Street. And those museums, we had visitors from all over the world, and Damon has closed down most of the hours and days that they're open. I mean, I had people coming in and saying, these are the most iconic, wonderful museums. We had a great time here. So, and the Eccles Rail Center. So what in the heck is going on? Are you guys just going to let them put in a bunch of retail down there and let it get screwed up like the mall was? You know, that's the way I see it going. And then everything's out of it, you know. I mean, I really love the museums. And that's the only reason why I quit, was to do this. Because if we don't have the museums, what's the point? And the Eccles Rail Center, we have trains that are really rare over there. And I've had people from everywhere say, oh, we loved your iconic 25th Street. We took a stroll up there. Thanks for sending us up there for lunch. But the hours and days that it's open now, it's like they're trying to push it to fail, you know. And they don't even put ads in the paper for any more docents. And by the way, I was really good. You know, I will admit I am a fantastic tour guide. So the idea that it's this way is terrible. And John's really good too, you know, and I learned all this stuff for what, you know? So we could get rid of museums. And like I said, nobody's going to come to Ogden to go shop high-end retail at a train station. I mean, whoever told you this crap is not even with it. Anyway, thanks. I want the museums to remain, and I want the developers to keep it historical, and you guys need to rezone the campus historical. That was terrible what happened.
Okay, thank you.
Save the museums.
Hi, I'm Steve Jones, an Ogden resident, and I sat in on the work session just prior to this, and of course one of the major topics of discussion was the framework plan for Union Station. I was appalled. Basically, absolutely nothing has been heard from what the citizens have been saying in our Save/Visit Union Station group for almost the last year. the plan that was presented in your work session really had very little, if any, change from what was presented when it was initially drafted. So I'm going to ask each and every one of you, stand up, take a look, ask the hard questions. You're certainly welcome to come join us at the Friday night meetings that we have in person for the Save Union Station group. I'm willing to talk to any one of you one-on-one. And I think almost anyone else involved with our Save Union Station group would do the same thing. But the citizens need to be heard, and that is not happening. So I'm asking you to take action, take seriously your role as the legislature of our city and your responsibility to represent the citizens. Clearly, that is not happening. So please step up to the plate and hit a home run for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, Teresa Bramwell. I want to continue a little bit of what this other gentleman started talking about, the homelessness in Ogden, or the poverty. Not so much just homelessness, but the concentration of poverty, specifically in East Central Ogden. The League of Cities and Towns in the state of Utah put out in 2019, affordable housing gap estimate for the city level. I've asked for a current document, which I have not received. So I believe this is the most current, 2019. So in Ogden City, very low income housing, which is 30 to 50% of the median income, Ogden had in 2019, 2,313 too many units. And in the low income housing, which is 50 to 80% of the median income, which is the middle income, Ogden had 1,801 too many housing units. Now it says here that in the extremely low income, which is 0 to 30% of the median income, which would, I think, basically be homeless people, Ogden has a deficit of 117 units. I don't believe that's true because I heard in the last meeting when we were discussing the homeless shelters that the homeless shelters have never ever been full. So what that tells me is that the homeless people that Ogden has won't stay in the homeless shelter. And we already have way too much low-income housing. I assume, since I have eyes and I can see what's being built in the city, there's not a lot of high-income housing that's being built in the city of Ogden this year, or in the past 3 years, or since 2019. I see that there's a lot of low-income housing that's being built in Ogden City, which is adding to the surplus that we already have. I feel like this massive surplus that we have of low-income housing is creating a massive amount of crime. It's creating destitution. It is making our real estate less valuable because people don't want to own and invest in real estate in places where the crime and destitution is high. So I would love it if you could look at the housing situation in a more realistic way in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Or a more moderated way.
Thank you.
Equality. Thank you.
Come on up. Welcome.
Hello, guys. Sebastian Benitez. I am coming for the last 8 years here, talking about many things, and you hear my voice many times too. I am coming today to talk about the retention of police officers and teachers. I know this is no Ogden School District, but The proposal I like to present to you, this is nothing, absolutely nothing about political thing, because I am candidate, you know that. We have in Ogden 34,251 houses paying taxes. We have the budget around $300 million. And we have a lot of problem to retain police officers and teachers in our city and our school district. I was talking with other person about it, and they will get more information, but basically is I am asking to the administration and you guys to think about it and make some incentive to this police officer and teachers negotiating with Ogden School District about property taxes. I ask for you guys to break the property taxes for every single police officer and teacher living in Ogden. And the study said will be effect to the budget 0.025% only. It's around less than $1 million the city will not receive in property taxes for around 300 houses, 300 between police officer and teachers. It's around the average is around $3,000 for property taxes. And that is just around 900,000. But this $3,000 will help a lot. These people dedicate so much and risk. They are in risk every single time when they are going outside. I propose to you think and make some study to the administration to break the property taxes for every single police officer live in Ogden, and we can negotiate with your mom too about Ogden School District if we can break that one too. That is my proposal too. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments here?
Hi, Travis Pate. I had some dynamics with regards to the understanding of the Union Station and the proposal for Union Station campus, and that was 172 pages. The packet to say we're not going to notice is 252 pages. So it's almost like let's throw a whole bunch of information on one thing that's this big of an agenda item, and then we have the entirety of the Union Station campus, which turns 100 years old next year as far as with the current building. And I think to me, part of the generating aspect is just doing the celebration, is just starting right now and saying, how do we celebrate this and how do we get the stories? I know there's multiple Facebook pages and other means of social media, but I think the dynamic of the city actually specifically saying, reenacting the Union Station Foundation and saying, let's throw its birthday in advance, because then that's when those people come out of the woodwork. I notice we've always seen celebrations of life, and we've had multiples at the center where someone that hadn't seen someone for a period of time comes in, and then the recounting of stories and the recounting of the heritage. I think that's a significant thing. And so I think to me, from council and administration said flat out, say, here's the birthday party date, here's this, here's how we're going to celebrate this event. And then I think a lot of those other things will come into play. And even Mr. Jones's group and some of those other things that that possibly have been ostracized or just not listened to, or I know I've, so to speak, been a hot button issue person, and then possibly that makes me non-approachable. And that's never been my intent. And I know that that's never the intent of some of the other individuals. I had a chance to go to the Inland Port Authority in Brigham City. They took their meeting to the people. I know council's done that in the past. I would encourage you to do that at least twice a year. Find the whatever spot it is, even if it's Union Station for the birthday party, and that's where your council meeting is that year. The Inland Port Authority, when they came to Box Elder County, not one of them knew that the Box Elder County Fair was that week. Very few of them even thought to take so to speak, Fruitland Drive, I-89, home or to the meeting. And yet we're going to go and decide for this rural community and say, we're celebrating you and we're going to load stuff from trucks to trains. And I said, you guys are reinventing the wheel. We had trucks to trains and trains to trucks called Ogden. and then multiple Garland and Tremont had their spur already, but Brigham Cities has lost theirs, but there's a chance for it by the airport. So I think to some end, that's the thing. And then now with BRT, quote, they have their occupancy permit. No road improvements have been done to Jefferson Avenue. All the damage from the heavy trucks and the buses that have run across there as their detour. And the sad thing, they didn't have the heavy trucks detoured to come to that site. So
thank you, Travis.
So anyway, thanks. And then I do have one last page for you, which shows the schools and then also what you asked about for Mark Johnson. So I left that with them, and I'll get that electronically to you guys. So
thank you for all those materials. Okay, we'll go online with Angel Castillo.
Good evening, Angel Castillo, Ogden resident. I just wanted to revisit and encourage y'all to take a look at the new outreach that you're doing, which I think is great, to have people be connected to what's happening and having people sign up. But I'd also like to circle back to what Chair Chaburka had said, is that we do have an access problem with regards to a very significant portion of our population that does not have internet access. So I'd like to perhaps have you have a discussion with that company to find out how they can connect with people that isn't just online. And then to go back to this whole crosstabs thing, because when people answer questions, if you don't know what census tract they're in, you don't know who's participating, and it has a tendency to be skewed to people that have internet access, which leaves a significant portion of our population out of the loop. And those are people that we really want to connect with, that we want to make sure that they have access to all the great programs that we have with regards to from the Neighbor Up grant to being able to have emergency home repairs. Building that communication channel is essential, but I'd like you to go a little bit further and make sure that the communication channels that you're developing, which are wonderful, have the same type of integrity and intention that the survey you paid for the CREP. Again, Weber State University is a Carnegie Institute, and they're pledged to use their services to connect to the community. And they have a wonderful data survey program, which is what y'all utilized for that survey. There has to be ways that we can build better partnerships and use their expertise to help guide this new company that we have doing some of the outreach. Again, definite kudos and applause for making sure that we continue to take those steps. But if you don't have crosstabs and you don't know who's participating, it is not equitable information that is representative of people who live at the north end of Ogden, to the south end of Ogden, or in the middle in East Central. So thank you so much and have a great night.
Thank you. Up next is Hisato.
Hi there, Heath Sato, Ogden resident. Council member Chaburka, I really did appreciate, like you, the time you guys spent on looking at saving taxpayers $2,400 a year in costs. And I didn't chime in directly on that because I honestly have not spent enough time looking at that issue to see whether it makes sense or not. So, but in regards to that, while I applaud any effort to reduce costs where it makes sense, I sometimes wonder about the balance of the time and effort spent on these smaller issues where, like you guys approved a $20 million buffer on top of a $55 million budget in a no compete cost plus contract that we're going to be paying for by making almost all the parking in the downtown area paid parking. Those parking fees are not going to pay for maintenance of street parking, which is what parking fees normally do. They'll be paying for that parking deck. And that means citizens parking on the street on 25th, including restaurant owners and their employees and their customers, they'll be paying twice over for that parking in both parking fees and taxes. So that $20 million, just the buffer amount on that is over 8,000 years of $2,400 per year of savings. So I want us to look at ways to save money, and I just wanted to give some scale to some of the decisions that you guys as a council have to make. And I don't expect you to spend, 8,000 times as much time on something like a parking deck. But moving forward, I'd like to see a greater engagement of discussion on the much larger issues in order to start saving taxpayer dollars instead of chasing more and more increased tax revenues. A final note on the wildlife rescue. I'm glad to hear things seem to be moving forward. I've been out there almost every weekend helping them clean up the new place. And it needs a lot of work. And I'd like you to consider, I'd like the city, I know you guys can't have any direct say on this, but I would like the other people listening that might have some impact on this to consider waiving the $7,000 a month that you want to start charging them in rent. The last time I looked at the agreement. If the city thinks that building is not worth saving and should be torn down, I don't think it makes sense to charge them $7,000 a month for a few more months. Let them put that money into the new facility that is around for all of us to use. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Oh, yeah, please step on up.
My name's Linda Sanchez, and I wanted to tell all of you who stood up and was willing to hear people talk about how they want to be transparent, because us as a community want to get behind you. We want to get up and do that, and to be transparent. That's a number one key. And how can we do that? And how can we support you if you're not? And I understand that sometimes that looks different in everybody's eyes, but those that only receive that portion, believe me, if I miss something that you guys say, or I listen to city council meetings, generally it's the next day. If there's something in the paper, they find me and say, "Did you see?" So I want to tell you thank you. Also, I was doing two things at one time with the work session today, and it was about something about salaries or something. I have a proposal that I didn't get to listen to that whole situation, so I'll be reviewing that later. But I would like to make a proposal. Us as a nurse, we have to take a test to show our competence, okay? And then we have to do this education yearly. I would like to propose that we do the same thing to uphold the Constitution. You guys all take an oath of office to uphold the Constitution, but not all the time is that always met, and that always looks different in everybody's eyes. So I would propose that we have a test to show competition, or to show competency, and then education yearly to make sure that we uphold that, so that we can keep those things in mind. And remember, we have to think of everyone and not just ourselves, right? But that would be my suggestion. And just know the community wants to get behind you. And being transparent, that will help in a lot of ways.
Thank you. Any other comments? Come on up.
I might as well. So I'll be the only person not saying.
Yeah,
anything.
I mean, everybody else has. Yeah. So.
Alexander Castanio, Ogden City resident. So yeah, everyone talked about some really important things. I'm going to talk about trash. So I would like to propose to the City Council and to Ogden City creating a bulk waste program. I think that would be really great. And when I say bulk waste program, I mean once or twice a year, residents could put out bulk waste in the front of their house or on the curb, and we would have the city or hire someone to pick it up. I think that would help a lot of people. I know where I live, a lot of people either don't have cars, or even myself, I don't have a truck. A lot of people don't have trucks. So it's hard to move, large waste or pieces of trees, stuff like that, to the dump. So I think that would be something really great for Ogden to have. Really clean up our city, and we could take more pride in Ogden. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's everyone that's able to make comment. Any responses or comments back from council members? I have a little bit of a list here, but
Sure, I've got a
please,
comment.
maybe I can cross a couple things
the
off.
last gentleman.
Yeah.
You should get acquainted with the Dial a Dumpster program. That is a program that works very well. We actually did what you proposed years ago, and the amount of rubbish that was stored on the park strip, it sat for months until we could get around and collect it all, made our city look really trashy. So this Dial a Dumpster program was put in its place, so you and 4 of your neighbors can get together and petition for one of these. It's free. You can schedule the date when you want it to come, whether it's on the week or over a weekend. So it's very convenient, and load it up, and then on in about 2 or 3 days they come pick it up, and away it goes. So I think it's one of the success stories that Ogden has is this Dial a Dumpster program.
Yeah, me and my neighbors have used it several times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's great. Love that idea. Any other comments before I go down my list? Okay. Okay. Well, so we got the extension question fixed, and as far as, and I agree with many of the comments about the folks that are living unsheltered in our community. There's several groups that meet together to talk about how to support people, and obviously I think we've talked about many times the wonderful program that Ogden City has of the homeless advocates that go out and meet with people specifically, and so they usually know almost everybody that's living in our city that doesn't have a house right now, and are trying to work with them to connect them. It's definitely a passion of mine to help resolve those issues too. So, and I don't know about the Ogden Magazine. I can't remember who publishes that or which department a person should be contacting in the city. Does anybody know? Do you know, Mara? I'm sorry. Yeah, I just don't know.
I do know, but they can reach out to city administration, and we can field questions about that publication.
Okay, great. I got that. I thought it looked really great. It had all those wonderful advertisements for Ogden businesses, etc. And then one thing I wanted to say about the comment about the framework for the Union Station is that particular piece of the plan is not the final community outreach piece that's going to happen with the whole development of Union Station. That really just has to do with the infrastructure around the streets, the walkways, the heights, those different things. It's just a framework. And so there wasn't any additional community engagement that went into that particular piece because it was developed a while ago, and it was kind of a formality for us to talk about that and possibly consider in the future. So there will be more extensive community outreach opportunities with the master plan for the Union Station campus. And I know that will be widely available, and all of you are definitely welcome to participate in that too, from the Union Station group as well as others. But just so you know, that's not finalizing anything about the final campus plan. And please talk to Brandon Cooper, directly if you want to find out more about the community engagement opportunities. And I don't know about the $7,000 rent per month. I don't know if we can really respond to that because it's an administrative action.
That's the default rent if it got extended and then they still stayed. So that's not applicable to
so
them.
Even if they get the extension, they won't have to pay the $7,000.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
And I just couldn't remember the details of that. Thank you. And I love that idea that Sebastian brought up of, thinking about other ways to incentivize police officers or public safety and teachers to say. So we'll definitely bring that back around. Is there anything else anybody has comments about? Okay.
I just want to make a comment. I mean, I know that there's a lot of people that don't have the internet, or there is some digital divide, but I don't think I'm not sure that it's as high as that is being portrayed. I mean, I think we have some, but I don't know that we have it a lot. Obviously, some veterans and those, there are people, older individuals, but I just want to. I'm not sure that. The broadband folks in the state have been working really hard to make sure that there's at least access to internet, whether they have computers or those kind of things. Another
Oh
story.
yeah, absolutely. And I think things have definitely improved since the pandemic, since we kind of identified some of those areas where we needed more support. Just depending on people's ability to actually pay or get access directly to some of those things, for sure.
I just didn't want to. Sometimes I make the comment, and it sounds like the sky is falling, but I'm not sure that it is. But
to me, it is.
There are a few. Yeah.
To me, in a way, but there's so many levels of the digital divide that it's hard to disaggregate. But I agree that there's many places where people could get access if they wanted it, but they may not be able to do it for a variety of reasons as well. Okay, so any other comments from administration?
I do have a couple comments just about the notice ordinance, and I respect that we can agree to disagree on that issue, but I think we did look forward to, as an administration, finding alternate ways to reaching out and providing notice to the citizens, and including doing some education at the facilities that we do have on, let's say, and I highly respect that there are seniors that are reading the paper. I have seniors, of course, in my family that, utilize the newspaper, but we're trying to look ahead into the future. The state law allowing cities or notice to cease publication in the newspapers due to the fact that many cities in Utah, the majority of them don't have a daily paper anymore. And so that was a response to a future that could happen in our community as well. So we will continue to look for ways to provide notice, because that future could be coming. We're not going to waste time to just stop learning and for new ways to reach out to the citizens. So we're going to continue to do that. We liked some ideas of using, I know not everybody goes to the senior center, but having a place where we could teach individuals that may not be utilizing the internet. We have public, libraries with computers, and we have the senior center with computers. So a lot of ways that we can continue to educate the public on more modern ways of accessing information in the notice. So I appreciate the comments, but we will continue to work on ways of providing notice as an administration, because that future will be here someday. So thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments from council members? Doesn't see it, so I think we're going to consider going into a closed session.
Chair, I'd make a motion that we move to a closed session.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Ritchie, a second from Councilmember Heyer to go into the closed session. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Let me just make sure. No, I'm just kidding. Aye.
Yes means yes.
Aye.
Vice Chair Ritchie?
Aye.
Chair Chaburka?
Aye, and that passes. And I don't expect we'll come back into the public session after the closed session. So thank you so much for your attendance, everyone.